Welcome to One Chapter, One Thought. I'm Pastor Chris from Lincroft Bible Church in New Jersey, and every weekday I read one chapter of the Bible and offer one brief devotional thought. Today's reading is from the book of Genesis, chapter 40. Sometime later, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker offended their royal master. Pharaoh became angry with these two officials, and he put them in prison where Jospeh was, in the place of the captain of the guard. They remained in prison for quite some time, and the captain of the guard assigned them to Jospeh, who looked after them. While they were in prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning. When Jospeh saw them the next morning, he noticed that they both looked upset. "Why do you look so worried today?" he asked them. They replied, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." "Interpreting dreams is God's business," Jospeh replied. "Go ahead and tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Jospeh his dream first. "In my dream," he said, "I saw a grapevine in front of me. The vine had 3 branches that began to bud and blossom, and it soon produced a cluster of ripe grapes. I was holding Pharaoh's wine cup in my hand, and so I took a cluster of grapes and squeezed the juice into the cup. Then I placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." "This is what the dreams mean," Jospeh said. "The 3 branches represent 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up and restore you to your position as his chief cupbearer. And please remember me and do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to Pharaoh so that he might let me out of this place. For I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison, but I did nothing to deserve it." When the chief baker saw that Jospeh had given the first dream such a positive interpretation, he said to Jospeh, "I had a dream too. In my dream, there were 3 baskets of white pastries stacked on my head. The top basket contained all kinds of pastries for Pharaoh, but the birds came and ate them from the basket on my head." "This is what the dream means," Jospeh told him. "The 3 baskets also represent 3 days. 3 days from now, Pharaoh will lift you up and impale your body on a pole. Then birds will come and peck away at your flesh." Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later, and he prepared a banquet for all his officials and staff. He summoned his chief cupbearer and chief baker to join the other officials. He then restored the chief cupbearer to his former position so he could again hand Pharaoh his cup. But Pharaoh impaled the chief baker, just as Jospeh had predicted when he interpreted his dream. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot all about Jospeh, never giving him another thought. One thought. After being falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, Jospeh is thrown into prison. Now, while he is in prison, he meets 2 servants in Pharaoh's court, the chief baker and the chief cupbearer. And it is in his interaction with these 2 men that the issue of dreams come up again in the narrative. The cupbearer tells Jospeh his dream, and Jospeh gives him a positive interpretation where he will be restored to Pharaoh's court once again. However, in the baker's dream, Jospeh provides a negative interpretation where the baker would be executed by Pharaoh. But even though Jospeh gave accurate interpretations of these dreams, he affirms a high view of God's sovereignty over his giftedness. He states in verse 8, "Interpreting dreams is God's business." Jospeh has an appropriate humility and reverence for the gifts that God has given him. Jospeh understands that even though he may have this extraordinary ability to interpret dreams, ultimately, it comes from the Lord. And this is how we should approach all the gifts that God has given to us. No matter what we are able to do, and some of you are able to do quite extraordinary things, we must always remember that everything comes from God's hand, and it is His strength and power which enables us to do what He wants us to do. The New Testament is fairly clear that each Christian has at least one spiritual gift. A spiritual gift is an ability that either the Lord will give to you or an ability that you already have that the Lord will baptize in a sense and use for His glory and the building up of the church. Some gifts are for service, some gifts are for teaching, other gifts are for meeting practical needs. I think there's a whole host of gifts that God gives or that God uses to build up His kingdom. But no matter what gifts we have, our attitude should be one of gratefulness and one of diligent service, just like Jospeh used his gift of interpreting dreams.